Over at Marvel Comics, Marvel's current Amazing Spider-Man run has been no stranger to controversy. And I really do think this is in large part to the fact that the publisher has devoted so much of this run to breaking up the relationship between Peter Parker and Mary Jane. And as if that wasn't controversial enough, the publisher also announced that there would be a surprise character death over in the 26th issue of the series. My name is Erick, and today let's go ahead and dive into the pages of the Amazing Spider-Man 26 to see how Marvel handles a controversial murder. But before we dive deeper into this video, I want to go ahead and encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button if you enjoy our content. And I want to go ahead and give some context behind the Amazing Spider-Man 26 with Marvel Comics solicitation text for the issue. Now fully in the present, the Emissary has returned, and his power is so far beyond Spider-Man's abilities, the heroes may figure out a way to win, but the cost of victory will be so immense that you hope they don't. And I want to go ahead and read off our creative team on Amazing Spider-Man 26. This one is written by Zeb Wells, featuring artwork from John Romita Jr., inks from Scott Hanna, colors from Marcio Menyz and Erick Arciniega, as well as some letters from VC's Joe Caramagna. The cover for the issue is illustrated by John Romita Jr., Scott Hanna, and Marcio Menyz. Here's a look over at the cover for the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 26. Really appreciate how this cover is sort of homaging the Gwen Stacy issue of Spider-Man that will now be infamous, likely alongside the Amazing Spider-Man 26 here, teasing the kind of cast of characters and giving a few kind of breadcrumbs as to who bites the dust over in this tale. I want to extend a quick thank you over to Adventures in Poor Taste, and I want to go ahead and kick off our review today by talking a little bit about John Romita Jr.'s artwork in this issue. So this is an extremely climactic issue of the Amazing Spider-Man, and for the most part, I'm a little bit mixed on what John Romita Jr. delivers in this issue. I think there's some great moments of perspective. There's really some fantastic ways that John Romita Jr. is able to translate Zeb Wells' script in certain scenes, but I really can't shake off the fact that depending on which panel you're looking at, especially female characters like Mary Jane, they can look totally different. I wish there was just a little bit more consistency over in the pages of John Romita Jr.'s work. One thing that I can definitely tell you that Romita Jr. does really well is craft some of these facial expressions for the characters. I think this page we have up on the screen, which is sort of a flashback to Kamala Khan interning for an internship over at Oscorp, is just an absolutely great scene that's full of so much subtext here. So given the fact that John Romita Jr. can really deliver on such a sort of condensed talking head scene, makes it all the more puzzling why some of the facial expressions lack that sense of consistency. Because I think we're seeing in some of the artwork here that Romita Jr. really does tend to understand like how to use the comic book page and tell the most consistent or precise story. I want to go ahead and focus on a little bit of the writing in the issue. Overall here, I have to say I was really impressed with, I would say, the plotting of this story in particular. When I sort of zoom out and just reference the fact that this story has been building since the very beginning of The Amazing Spider-Man, I'm really impressed by how this kind of end result of the issue turned out here. I think the way the previous Spider-Man issues have gone back to the past to flesh out a little bit more of the status quo while sort of bringing back this character of Benjamin Rabin, who was in Zeb Wells' initial Spider-Man run, is just such a fascinating idea that is captured so well here. And due to the fact that we had all this kind of prologue that was hidden from us for such a long time, and given that context now that Benjamin Rabin, the Emissary, has returned to New York City, I'm really feeling that sense of dread that I don't think I would have felt if the story was paced a little bit differently here. I'm loving the fact that we're still going with this Peter Parker, who we've been with since issue 1, who has gone through kind of so much characterization over in this series. I sort of love watching where he leaves off with characters like the Fantastic Four, who he previously had a bit of animosity towards due to the situation that he was in. I love how their tension kind of lessens here, and it's due to some of their pre established relationships over in the series. Another aspect that I was so happy to see in this issue as well was the fact that Norman Osborn, the Gold Goblin, had some great moments of heroism in the tale. It's just so honestly refreshing to see Norman Osborn with a really interesting status quo where he really feels like he has to win back some of the other characters in the Marvel Universe. Another really fascinating aspect of this tale, too, was how they sort of tied in those abilities that Mary Jane got in titles like Mary Jane and Black Cat and other comics over at Marvel. So really happy to see that sort of implementation of continuity really utilized here in a sort of fascinating way. I love the fact, too, that Benjamin Rabin is almost bringing New York towards an apocalypse. I think it makes this issue feel a little bit more harrowing and worthy of being such a sort of kind of hyped up tale, too. I find that sometimes with these big, kind of important issues over for Marvel, I don't always get that substance. But I think due to the fact that so many issues of Amazing Spider-Man have really been devoted to fleshing out this tale, I actually really enjoyed a lot of the content here. Now, I do want to go ahead and talk about the sort of controversial character death over in the issue. And I'm really surprised at how Marvel was able to go ahead and tackle this kind of surprise death. I actually did find that the kind of pages of this character's death really carried a strong emotional impact for me. And I was really happy to see if Marvel was going to decide to kind of take one of their minority characters off the board, which I don't necessarily prefer. It is interesting that at least the kind of final moments of said character got a really strong emotional impact from the reader and also had some like implications over on the plot of this series as well. So honestly, while I'm a little bit dismayed at the fact of who we're taking off the board, I think the way that we did it in a super emotionally charged way in an arc that's building for so many issues of The Amazing Spider-Man feels a little bit kind of more coherent and cohesive than a lot of other deaths over in the Marvel Universe. So at the end of the day here, I am extremely happy over with The Amazing Spider-Man issue 26. I'm really hoping that Marvel will have some sort of greater purpose for taking said character off the board that will be revealed over in future issues. But I really think that if you look at how this plotting, if you look at how this story is organized and structured, there's something really special about this kind of tale. We have so many pieces of this story, but the way that they kind of come together in issue 26, I think is just absolutely fascinating. I'm extremely interested to see The Amazing Spider-Man kind of go back to normal and head into a sort of, more sterilized direction moving forward. Really wondering what the sort of rest of the fan response is going to be and how Marvel is going to move forward, especially with Peter and Felicia's relationship over in future issues of the series. I want to know from you, what were some of your thoughts on The Amazing Spider-Man 26? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for coming to check out The Amazing Spider-Man 26, and we'll be back to talk about future Spider-Man issues as soon as they're released. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.